I'd like to thank Al Feeney Neer for having me up here, but I must be on Feeney's bad list. A few years ago, I inducted Renee Charland, and today I have the very special honor of inducting one of the bad guys of New England racing into the Hall of Fame. Big Daddy himself, he also had the name of the Flying Scotsman, Don MacLaren. Don MacLaren is probably New England's greatest bad guy. And you know what? He loved every minute of it. He was the original bad guy in the black hat. Born on a farm in Tewksbury, Massachusetts of May of 1935, he learned to drive around the farm in various vehicles at a very early age. In fact, MacLaren won his first feature event at the wonderful Lake Norwood Arena on his 16th birthday, driving a Ford-powered Willys-bodied bomber in that division for Stan Gould of Tewksbury, Mass. Without a doubt, Don's record speaks for itself. Although many in southern New England never saw him race, it was really incredible. Here are a few of the tracks he won at. In Maine, Arundel and Beech Ridge on the dirt. In New Hampshire, Star, Hudson, Dover, Lee Raceway, Brookline, where Ronnie Bouchard started out, and Bryant Motorsports Park, which some of you may know as New Hampshire International Speedway. In Massachusetts, he won at Norwood, the Pines, West Peabody, and Westboro. In Canada, he won at Riverglade, Fredericton, and Danny Speedball, which is now called Bathurst. In Pennsylvania, he won the first super-modified, and I think one of two races held at the Pocono. In New York, he won at Fulton and 4 features at the Oswego, New York Speedway. Ironically, his great arch rival, the great Ollie Silver, never won at Oswego. MacLaren's first feature win came for driving the Flying Five for Smiling Ed Bowley, who, like Sonny Cazella, had musical drivers in his car, including Leo Cleary, the late Red Sequin, Smokey Boutwell, Norm Mackworth, and many others. But it took Big Bad Don MacLaren to put that car in victory lane. He also raced ice cars on Lake Winnipesaukee and raced motorcycles while in the service in Europe. He won approximately 20 NESMA races and countless races on the old Oscar Ridlin UDRC circuit. Now, many of his races were run under the Amos Bird system of handicapping. For those who are not familiar with Hudson Pines and NESMA, Amos was the handicapper there for many, many years. Now, Stafford and all these other wonderful tracks, and Thompson and NASCAR, they use their .1 and average and this and that. Amos had a much better system. If you were fast, you started down back. He didn't care who or what you were. If he thought you were fast that day, it was to the end of the pack. Don MacLaren won many of his races coming from 18th to 20th, a real testimony to his ability. Some of the bigger events that he won were the 1966 NESMA Classic at Lee Raceway, where he won one of the 3 races that day, along with Eddie West, who's here with us today, and a Hall of Fame member, and Bob Cloutier. He won the 1968 NESMA Can American Classic at Star. He was the 1961, 62, and 63 Class A cut-down champion on the Ridlin UDRC circuit. In 1972, when Thompson was running at Friday nights, he won 6 features in a row and won the 1976 Icebreaker at Thompson. I think those are pretty good credentials. All famous race car drivers have some great races, and on June of 1972, on a memorable Thompson night, Ollie Silver and Don MacLaren went wheel to wheel for 50 laps, side by side. They banged wheels, crossed each other over, just really hard driving. Going into the 3rd turn of the last lap, they both did a little pirouette, the 2 of them spinning into the infield. And Ed West, who was running about a half a lap behind, in 3rd place. Now, let me remind you that MacLaren and Silver never touched each other. It was like a perfect ballet performance, loop-to-loop in the infield. West, who was a good half a lap behind, went on for the win, and when he goes by MacLaren and Silver in the infield, he gives them the old, "Hi, fellas, I won the race." Afterwards, Don goes huffing and puffing over to Silver. Silver comes running over to MacLaren. Don MacLaren says to Silver, "Hey, Silver, do you feel like a blankety-blank?" "Yep." And so Silver says, "Hey, Ollie, do you feel like a blankety-blank?" "Yep." and they both went off to have a beer. On one memorable night in 1973, it was the Oswego qualifier. There was a Paul Richardson and Don MacLaren battled for many laps side by side. Earl Grant was the flagman. Nesmer's Harry Harriman was the assistant flagman. And there were two scorers. Well, I was really heckling Earl that night, and he had me up in the flag stand for a while, and that's when I got a new respect for flagmen. But at any rate, it was bumper to bumper, wheel to wheel. They came down for the win. Earl gave the nod to Richardson. Harry Harriman thought that Don MacLaren won. One scorer felt that Richardson won, the other felt that MacLaren won. So we had a even battle here. So Russ Conway, who's here today, being the NESMA director and a wonderful PR person, figured, hey, I'm going to get a lot of mileage at this. He declared it a dead heat. And fortunately for Don, that year at Oswego, he had trouble in qualifying and was able to use the guaranteed spot. And it is my pleasure to introduce and induct into the Near Hall of Fame for the class of 2000, a racer's racer, a tough guy, but one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet, Big Daddy Don MacLaren.
I just got one thing to say. Bill, you ought to go to the races with me if you want some booze. You know, I could sit up here all day long, stand up here all day long, and it would take that long 3 days to thank everybody that's helped me. But let me tell you, the last 50 years of racing has got to be the most wonderfulest thing that I have ever done. And most of all, I love building my cars, winning with them, selling them, and build some more. That was what I went after. And I just don't know what else I can say. There is one thing I would like to say before I leave. I want everybody to meet my fiance, Lorraine Campbell. You stand up, hon. Boy, has she helped me in the last 5 or 6 years with all the problems I've had. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate this and all those that had part in this. Thank you.